Hi everyone, Sailor Moon here, Serena, Sarah Uranus, Sarah Scarlet, Amara here, and today we're going to talk about unstraight folks in Sailor Moon. Now, a lot of folks might believe that Sailor Moon is the first drawing show from Dawnland to have unstraight folks in it, and I don't know if that's true or not. I most likely think it's not true. Now, why we talk about this is that back in the day, is that back in the day, a lot of folks now look back and say, well, why did Deke and Disney had to do what they did with Zoisite? Like, why did Zoisite become a woman? See, that's looking back at the past and wondering how it was handled. Well, back in the before, there was this oversight, which I guess was spoken or unspoken, that if you were doing a show for children, then you couldn't have any unstraight cells in it. And you might think it was only about them. Think again. You see, Disney and Deke were lucky to get the deal with UPN and WB for Sailor Moon, alright? And they had to shift Zoisite into a woman because they were worried that WB or UPN or both of them would say, that's it. There's so much we can put up with, but we can't put up with an unstraight self. And then that would have been the end of their deal back then. You know, and that was the same thing that both Pioneer and Cloverway, or whatever Pathseeker were under, when they worked with the Friedif and Four Followings. That's why Amara over here and Michelle had to become nearkin. Yes, in the Pioneer world, they are nearkin. That's also why Fisheye had to be a woman too. And a lot of folks like to think, well, why couldn't they just, could they only, leave them alone? Like I told you, if they did, then UPN or WB or USA or Cartoon would have freaked out, and then they would have lost their deal. And even if the folkworks didn't, bearers and teachers and, and keepers and, worship leaders and other folks that would have started having sway and would have started made such a big deal about it that UPN, WB, USA, or Cartoon would have had to have been done with it altogether, and that's why it happened. Well, you bring up a good ground, Sailor Moon, but a lot of folks say, why is it now that no one has to do all of that on skimming when it comes to unstraight cells? And it comes down to a shift of mindset, a shift of what folks are willing to put up with, the understanding and the trusting there, And when that started happening, then that's when why Viz didn't have to do anything to Sailor Moon at all. And a lot of folks are like, well, don't get it twisted. There are still folks out there who are strongly against it. But there are more folks that are for it than against it, though. And the weird, funny thing about the 1990 Sailor Moon drawing show was that this was the only offshoot, where you really had unstraight cells in it. I mean, as far as Zoisite and Malachite go, as far as how me and Michelle were handled or how Fisheye was handled, mostly the same way between the plays and the books and whatever. And I think shifting Zoisite to a woman or Fisheye to a woman, wasn't a big deal. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. They could have been completely out of the show altogether. Which in some offshoots of Sailor Moon, that was true. So, well, now you heard about why Disney and Deke had to clean Zoisite. and why Cloverway and Pioneer, Pathseeker, had to clean Mara Michelle and Fisheye up. It had nothing to do with them being against Unstraight. It had to do with the oversights that the folkworks, like, UPN, WB, USA, and Cartoon were under at the time, and what folks were willing to put up with. And I'll see you all later.